I never thought I'd be in this situation. Seriously, when the Galaxy Exchange program first launched 5 years ago, I watched the news reports with the same mild curiosity as everyone else. Aliens walking among us. Interplanetary cultural exchange. The future is now. Yeah, whatever. I had finals to study for and an overdue electricity bill that seemed way more pressing than some purple-skinned visitors from across the galaxy. But here I am, staring at the glowing crystal sphere hovering between my hands and those of my alien roommate, wondering exactly how my life took such a sharp left turn into the cosmic unknown. Let me back up a bit. My name's Ryan Chun, and I'm a broke astrophysics major at New Metropolitan University. 3 months ago, I was desperately scrolling through housing ads, having been priced out of my previous apartment after my roommate decided to move in with his girlfriend. The campus housing wait list was longer than the line for the new Holo Cinema release, and every affordable place within commuting distance had either been snapped up or looked like it might collapse during the next mild breeze. That's when I saw it, a listing on Cosmic B&B that seemed too good to be true. Spacious 2-bedroom apartment near university. Half-price rent for human roommate willing to participate in occasional cultural rituals. No previous interspecies experience necessary. Half price? In this economy? I clicked apply faster than you could say potential abduction scenario. The listing had a few more details about respecting cultural differences and maintaining an open mind, but I'll be honest, I skimmed that part. The rent was less than half what I was currently paying, and the place was a 5-minute hover tram ride from campus. I signed the digital contract, provided my genetic verification scan, and promptly forgot about it until I received an acceptance notification the next day, which is how I found myself standing outside apartment 42B on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, luggage in hand, wondering what kind of cultural rituals I'd just signed myself up for. The door slid open before I could knock, and I found myself face-to-face with my new roommate. And wow, was she face-to-face. Despite everything I'd heard about aliens, I hadn't expected her to look so human-like. Her name was Zara, as she introduced herself, and she was from a planet called Lumira. "You must be Ryan," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that seemed to reverberate inside my skull. "I am pleased to meet my new dwelling companion." I try not to stare, but it was hard not to notice her appearance. Her skin had a soft lavender hue that seemed to shimmer slightly under the apartment lights. Her eyes were what really caught my attention, though, large and almond-shaped with irises that glowed a gentle blue, like tiny nebulae. She wore what looked like regular Earth clothes, jeans and a simple t-shirt, but around her neck was an intricate silver necklace with a small crystal pendant. "Yeah, that's me," I managed, extending my hand. "Nice to meet you." Instead of shaking my hand, she placed her palm flat against mine, her skin surprisingly warm. "The greeting ritual of handshaking is insufficient for dwelling companions," she said matter-of-factly. "Please, allow me to show you the proper way." Before I could object, she had guided my hand up until our palms were pressed together at eye level. Then she leaned forward until our foreheads touched. I felt a strange, tingling sensation, like static electricity, but somehow pleasant. "There," she said, pulling back with what I assumed was a smile. "Now we have exchanged trust energies. This is important for cohabitation harmony, right?" I said, trying to act like this was totally normal. "Trust energies. Got it." She seemed pleased with my response and stepped aside to let me in. The apartment was surprisingly nice, clean, modern, and way more spacious than anything I could usually afford. My bedroom was already furnished with a bed, desk, and storage units that seemed to hover slightly above the floor. "I have prepared a welcome ritual for you," Zara announced as I was setting down my bags. "It is customary on Lumira to bond with new dwelling companions through shared experience." "Oh, like a housewarming party?" I asked, perking up. "That sounds great." Her expression shifted slightly, her head tilting in that universal gesture of confusion. "It is not for warming. The dwelling's temperature modulation system is functioning optimally. This is the first phase of a love ritual." I nearly choked on air. "The what ritual?" "The love ritual," she repeated casually, as if she'd just mentioned doing the dishes. It is outlined in Section 37.4 of our dwelling agreement. Did you not review the cultural exchange provisions? I hadn't, of course. I've been too excited about the cheap rent to read the fine print. Rookie mistake. I might have skimmed that part, I admitted. What exactly does this love ritual involve? Nothing concerning, she assured me, waving a hand dismissively. Just some energy harmonization exercises, synchronized meditation, and eventually a full consciousness melding. Standard Lamaran bonding practices. Consciousness melding? My heart rate doubled. And, what happens if I don't want to participate? Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. The agreement clearly states that participation in cultural rituals is a condition of the reduced dwelling fee. Refusal constitutes a breach of contract, resulting in standard market rate rent adjustment or termination of residency. Great. I was trapped between my wallet and whatever cosmic connection this was. I thought about my bank account, the student loans piling up, and the impossibility of finding another affordable place mid-semester. When do we start? I asked, resigned to my fate. Her eyes brightened again. Excellent. We begin with the welcome ceremony tonight at moonrise. I will prepare the necessary items. As she literally floated a few inches off the ground, toward the kitchen, I collapsed onto the couch. What had I gotten myself into? The welcome ceremony turned out to be less alarming than I'd feared. Zara prepared some kind of herbal tea that tasted like mini honey, and we sat cross-legged on the living room floor, surrounded by small glowing crystals. She asked me questions about my studies, my family, my aspirations, normal roommate stuff, really, except for the fact that as I spoke, the crystal around her neck would pulse with light. The crystal resonates with emotional truths, she explained when she caught me staring. It is recording your essence pattern. My what now? Your unique energy signature. All beings have one. Humans typically are unaware of theirs, but they are quite distinctive. By the time I crawled into bed that night, exhausted from the move and the strange ceremony, I'd convinced myself that this arrangement might be workable. Sure, Zara was odd, but who wasn't these days? And the apartment really was nice. I should have known it wouldn't be that simple. The next morning, I woke to Zara standing beside my bed, her eyes glowing brighter than usual. Good morning, dwelling companion, she chirped. It is time for our daily energy synchronization. I squinted at my phone. It's 6 a.m. Yes, the optimal time for energy alignment when your planet's electromagnetic field is shifting from night phase to day phase. Before I could object, she had pressed her forehead against mine, both palms flat against my own. That strange tingling sensation returned, stronger this time, and I felt a warm energy spreading from my head down to my toes. There, she said, looking satisfied. Now our biorhythms are harmonized for optimal coexistence. This became our daily routine. Every morning, without fail, Zara would wake me at 6 a.m. for our energy synchronization. If I tried to dodge it by leaving early, she'd find me later and insist we were energetically discordant until we completed the ritual. And that was just the beginning. 2 weeks into our roommate arrangement, Zara presented me with a bracelet, a band of silver metal with a small crystal similar to the one she wore around her neck. This is your emotional resonator, she explained. Phase 2 of the love ritual requires both participants to maintain energetic transparency. I examined the bracelet skeptically. What does it do? It displays your emotional state through chromatic variations, she said, as if that explained everything. Please wear it at all times. I put it on, mostly to avoid another discussion about contract clauses. Almost immediately, the crystal turned a deep blue. Ah, skepticism and mild anxiety, Zara observed. Completely normal at this stage of the ritual. Great. Now I had a mood ring broadcasting my feelings to my alien roommate. Perfect. Despite the strangeness of it all, I found myself settling into a routine. I'd go to classes, study at the library, and come home to whatever new ritual Zara had planned for the evening. Some were actually kind of nice, like the gratitude reflection, where we'd share something we were thankful for while holding our palms against a shared crystal. Others were more challenging, like the time she insisted we maintain mind-space proximity by staying within 3 feet of each other for an entire weekend. Through it all, I couldn't help but notice that Zara herself was, well, pretty amazing. Despite her odd practices, she was incredibly intelligent, with insights about astrophysics that made my professor's lectures seem elementary. She was considerate, always cleaning up after herself and respecting my space when not performing rituals anyway. And there was something captivating about the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her homeworld or when she discovered something new about Earth culture. It was during one of these conversations, about a month into our cohabitation, that my friend Ella stopped by unannounced. "Ryan," she called, using her emergency override code to enter the apartment. "You won't believe what I just..." She stopped short at the sight of Zara and me sitting cross-legged on the floor, foreheads touching, surrounded by floating crystals. "Oh," she said, "I see you're busy." I jumped up awkwardly, my bracelet flashing a bright yellow, embarrassment according to Zara's color chart. "Yeah, this isn't. I mean, it is, but it's not what you think. We are completing the 3rd phase of the Lumaran love ritual," Zara explained helpfully, rising to her feet with that graceful floating movement. "You must be Ella, Ryan's academic companion. He speaks of you frequently." Ella's eyes widened, darting between Zara and me. "Love ritual? Ryan, can I talk to you for a minute?" Privately, I followed her into the kitchen, my face burning. "What the hell are you doing?" she hissed once we were alone. "Do you have any idea what these rituals mean?" "It's just cultural stuff," I whispered back. "It's in my rental contract." Ella looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "Ryan, those aren't just cultural stuff. I've been researching the Galaxy Exchange program for my Xenosociology class. These Lumaran love rituals are serious business. They're basically their version of a commitment ceremony." My stomach dropped. "A what?" "A commitment ceremony. You know, like an engagement? Binding yourself to another person?" "That's impossible," I said, though a sinking feeling told me it wasn't. "Zara would have told me if that's what this was." "Would she? Did you actually read your contract?" I hadn't, of course, and Ella knew it. She'd seen me skim through plenty of terms and conditions before. "Look," she said, lowering her voice further, "you need to be careful. There's been some serious backlash against these interspecies relationships. The Anti-Harmony League has been gaining traction, saying aliens are using these cultural exchanges to infiltrate and manipulate humans." "That's ridiculous," I said, though the worry must have shown on my face, or rather, on my bracelet, which had turned a murky green. "Maybe," Ella conceded, "but they're getting organized. There were protesters outside the exchange office yesterday. Just be careful, okay? And maybe read that contract." After she left, I pulled up the digital copy of my rental agreement and, for the first time, actually read through the fine print. There it was in section 37.4. Tenant agrees to participate in all cultural rituals as specified by the dwelling provider, including but not limited to the 7-phase Lumaran love ritual, culminating in the ceremony of energetic union. I confronted Zara that evening, my bracelet practically strobing with anxiety and anger. "Is this true?" I demanded, showing her the contract section. "Are we basically going through some alien engagement ceremony?" Zara's eyes dimmed, and she seemed to physically shrink a little. "Your understanding is incomplete," she said softly. "The love ritual is not what humans consider engagement. It is a process of deep understanding and harmonization between beings." "But what does it mean on Lumira? What happens at the end of these 7 phases?" She hesitated. "The ceremony of energetic union is significant. It creates a bond that allows 2 beings to share energy and emotional states across great distances. So we be what? Psychically linked. In simple terms, yes, but it is temporary and can be dissolved if both parties wish it." I paced the living room, running my hands through my hair. "Why didn't you explain this from the beginning?" "I assumed you understood when you signed the agreement," she said, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Most humans who agree to cohabitation with Lumarans do so with full knowledge of the rituals involved. Most humans, apparently, read the fine print better than I did." Over the next few days, I found myself in an increasingly uncomfortable position. On one hand, I genuinely enjoyed Zara's company and found our rituals, now that I understood their significance, kind of meaningful. On the other hand, I couldn't shake Ella's warning about the growing anti-alien sentiment. My concerns were confirmed when I arrived at campus the following week to find the bulletin boards plastered with posters from the Anti-Harmony League. Protect humanity from alien influence, and say no to interspecies bonding. That same day, I received a message from the Galaxy Exchange Administration requesting a meeting about my participation in cultural exchange activities. The tone was formal, but carried an undercurrent of warning that made my stomach clench. When I arrived at the administration building, I was met by a stern-faced official who introduced himself as Administrator Phillips. "Mr. Chun," he said without preamble, "we've received reports that you're engaged in a Lumaran love ritual with your exchange program roommate. Is this correct?" I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. "It's part of our housing agreement. Are you aware that these rituals are currently under review by the Interplanetary Relations Committee? There are concerns about potential neurological effects on human participants." "Neurological effects?" I repeated. "What kind of effects?" "That's classified information at this time," he said dismissively. "What you need to know is that continuing this ritual could jeopardize your academic standing and participation in university programs." I felt a flare of indignation. "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning," he corrected. "The university cannot endorse activities that may pose risks to students. Additionally, there have been incidents involving anti-alien groups targeting those in interspecies relationships." "We're not in a relationship," I protested weakly. "We're just roommates." Administrator Phillips raised an eyebrow. "According to our information, you've completed 3 phases of the Lumaran love ritual. On Lumara, that constitutes a significant bond." He slid a document across the desk. "This is a formal request for you to terminate your participation in these rituals. Signing it will ensure your continued good standing with the university." I stared at the paper, my mind racing. "And if I don't sign?" His expression hardened. "Then the university cannot protect you from either academic consequences or potential targeting by extremist groups." I left without signing, my thoughts in turmoil. When I returned to the apartment, Zara was waiting, her eyes dimmer than usual. "You spoke with the exchange administration," she said. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" She gestured to her crystal pendant. "We have completed 3 phases of the love ritual." I can sense her distress. I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "Zara, what's really going on here? Why is everyone so concerned about these rituals?" She sat beside me, her movements lacking their usual fluid grace. "There is much I should have explained better," she admitted. "The love ritual is ancient, dating back to when my people first developed interstellar travel. It was created as a way to maintain bonds across vast distances and different time flows. And what happens in the final phase? The energetic union." Her eyes met mine, glowing softly. "It creates a permanent channel between 2 beings, allowing energy and emotion to flow freely between them. It is the closest thing Lumarans have to what humans call marriage, though the concept is not entirely equivalent." My bracelet flashed a kaleidoscope of colors: shock, fear, confusion, and something else I couldn't identify. "Why me?" I asked finally. "Why choose a random bro college student for something this important?" "It was not random," she said softly. "The pairing algorithm matched us based on compatibility factors. Your application showed someone with an open mind, curiosity about the universe, and a capacity for empathy that is rare." "I just want a cheap rent," I admitted. A small smile played at her lips. "Your motivations were not ideal, but your essence is compatible with mine. This is why the initial phases have progressed so smoothly." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with an urgent news alert. Anti-alien protesters clash with exchange program participants at downtown rally. I clicked on the video to see a chaotic scene of protesters carrying signs with slogans like "Earth for Humans," confronting a mixed group of humans and aliens. The camera zoomed in on a tall, imposing man addressing the crowd. "These so-called cultural exchanges are nothing more than attempts to colonize humanity from within," he shouted. These aliens use their rituals and ceremonies to create mental bonds, making humans susceptible to their influence. We demand an immediate end to all interspecies rituals, especially the Lumaran love rituals that create permanent neural changes in human participants. The crowd roared in agreement, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Is that true? I asked Zara. Do these rituals change human brains? She looked troubled. All meaningful experiences change neural pathways. Learning a new language changes your brain. Falling in love changes your brain. The love ritual is no different. But is it dangerous? No, she said firmly. It is transformative, but not harmful. Those who fear it do not understand it. She hesitated. But I would understand if you wish to terminate the process. I have grown. Fond of you, Ryan. I do not wish to cause you difficulties. I stood up, pacing the apartment as I tried to sort through my thoughts. On one hand, I had the university's threats and the growing anti-alien sentiment to consider. On the other hand, I had come to genuinely care about Zara, and the thought of hurting her made my chest ache. I need some time to think, I said finally. She nodded, her eyes dimming further. I understand. I grabbed my jacket and headed out, needing fresh air and perspective. Without really thinking about it, I found myself at Ella's apartment. I'm in trouble, I told her when she opened the door. Ella listened as I explained everything. The meeting with Administrator Phillips, the protests, and my conflicted feelings about Zara and the ritual. I don't know what to do, I admitted when I'd finished. If I continue with the ritual, I could lose my scholarship, maybe even get kicked out of school. If I stop, I hurt Zara and probably have to move out, which I can't afford to do. Not to mention the Anti-Harmony League might target you either way now, Ella added unhelpfully. Thanks for the reminder, I groaned. She studied me thoughtfully. Can I ask you something? If none of this external stuff was happening, no university pressure, no protesters, would you want to continue the ritual with Zara? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I think you do, she said gently. Your bracelet's been purple since you started talking about her. I looked down at my wrist. Sure enough, the crystal was glowing a deep, vibrant purple. According to Zara's color chart, purple signified affection, possibly even love. Oh, I said weakly. Yeah, oh, Ella echoed. Look, I'm not telling you what to do here, but it seems to me that you care about her, ritual or no ritual. I thought about Zara, her intelligence, her kindness, the way she saw the universe as full of wonder and connection. I thought about our morning energy synchronizations, which I'd started to look forward to despite the early hour. I thought about how her eyes lit up when she discovered something new about Earth culture, or when she explained concept from her world. I do care about her, I admitted, but that doesn't solve my practical problems. No, Ella agreed, but it might help you decide what's worth fighting for. When I returned to the apartment, it was dark and seemingly empty. Zara, I called. I found her on the balcony, gazing up at the stars. She turned as I approached, and I could see her eyes were dimmer than I'd ever seen them. I have made a decision, she said before I could speak. I will release you from our contract. You should not have to choose between your education and a ritual you did not fully understand. Zara, I have already contacted the exchange administration to request reassignment. Zara, stop, I interrupted. I don't want to be released from the contract. She blinked, her eyes brightening slightly. You don't? No. I mean, yes, I wish I'd understood what I was getting into from the beginning. But now that I do, I want to continue. I want to see where this goes. But your university can deal with it, I said with more confidence than I felt. Look, I don't know exactly what I feel for you, but I know it's something real. Ritual or no ritual. Her eyes brightened further, and she took a step toward me. The fourth phase of the love ritual requires complete honesty between participants. I should have been more transparent from the beginning, and I should have read the contract, I admitted, so maybe we're both learning. She smiled, and it felt like the most natural thing in the world when she reached out to take my hands in hers. The fourth phase also requires precise timing, she said. It must be completed during the alignment of Lumara's star with your moon. This occurs tomorrow night. What does this phase involve? I asked, suddenly nervous again. Energy attunement, she explained. Our energetic signatures must harmonize completely before we can proceed to the deeper connections of later phases. That doesn't sound too bad, I said cautiously. Her expression grew serious. It is intense. It requires complete openness and vulnerability. There can be no barriers between us. I swallowed hard but nodded. I'm in. The next evening, Zara transformed our living room into what looked like a scene from a sci-fi movie. The furniture had been pushed against the walls, and in the center of the room floated a large crystal sphere, glowing with an inner light that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. This is an orb of attunement, Zara explained. It will help focus and amplify our energy exchange. She had changed from her usual earth clothes into what I assumed was traditional Lamaran attire, flowing silver fabric that seemed to shimmer with its own light, accentuating her lavender skin. Should I, change clothes too? I asked, suddenly feeling underdressed in my jeans and t-shirt. She smiled. Your attire is irrelevant. The ritual concerns energy, not appearance. We sat cross-legged on the floor, facing each other with the floating orb between us. Zara instructed me to place my hands on the orb, palms flat against its smooth surface. She did the same, her hands, opposite mine, so that our fingertips almost touched around the sphere's circumference. Close your eyes, she said softly. Feel the energy flowing through the orb. Let it connect with your own energy. I did as she asked, feeling slightly foolish at first, but then I felt it, a warm vibration emanating from the sphere, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. No, not my heartbeat. Our heartbeats synchronized. Now, Zara continued, her voice taking on that musical quality I'd first noticed when we met. Open your mind to me. Let your thoughts flow freely. I tried to relax, to let go of the barriers I usually kept firmly in place. It was harder than I expected. Years of keeping my thoughts and feelings guarded didn't disappear in an instant. You're resisting, Zara observed. It's natural. Try focusing on a memory, something happy, something that defines you. I thought back to my childhood, to the first time I saw the stars through a telescope. The wonder I'd felt, the sudden understanding of how vast the universe was, how small we were in comparison, but also how connected everything was. That moment had set me on the path to studying astrophysics. The orb between us pulsed brighter, and suddenly I felt something, a presence in my mind, gentle and curious. Zara. And then, just as suddenly, I could feel her memories too, soaring through the crystalline forests of Lumara, the joy of discovering that her people were not alone in the universe, the mixture of excitement and terror when she volunteered for the exchange program. Ryan, she whispered, her voice sounding both aloud and inside my head simultaneously. You're doing it. You're. A loud crash interrupted the moment as our apartment door was forcibly opened. For figures in dark clothing burst in, faces partially obscured by anti-pollution masks commonly worn in the city. Step away from the alien, one of them shouted. I jumped to my feet, placing myself between the intruders and Zara. Who the hell are you? Get out of our apartment. The leader of the group stepped forward, removing his mask to reveal the same man I'd seen in the protest video. I am Dr. Harrison Wells, president of the Earth Protection Alliance, and we're here to save you from this alien mind control. There's no mind control happening here, I said firmly, though my heart was racing. This is a private residence, and you're trespassing. Dr. Wells ignored me, addressing his companions. Secure the attunement orb. It's the primary tool they use to alter human neural pathways. Two of the intruders moved forward, but Zara stood, her eyes blazing brighter than I'd ever seen them. You will not touch this sacred orb, she said, her voice resonating with authority. It is protected by Lamaran law. Earth laws apply here, Wells sneered. And Earth law will soon forbid these interspecies rituals. I could feel Zara's fear and anger through our partially established connection, and something protective surged within me. I'm participating in this ritual voluntarily, I declared. No one is controlling my mind. That's exactly what someone under alien influence would say, one of the other intruders commented. We don't have time for this, Wells said impatiently. Neutralize the alien and secure the human for deprogramming. As they moved toward us, I made a split-second decision. I grabbed Zara's hand and placed it back on the orb, putting my own hands opposite hers. Ryan, what are you? I consent to the ritual, I said loudly, looking directly into her glowing eyes. I fully and completely consent to the energetic union with you, Zara of Lumara. Her eyes widened in surprise, but she nodded, understanding my intention. We both pressed our hands firmly against the orb, which began to pulse with increasing intensity. Stop them, Wells shouted. But as his companions moved forward, the orb suddenly expanded into a sphere of brilliant light that enveloped Zara and me completely. I felt her consciousness mesh with mine, not overtaking, not controlling, but joining. Her thoughts flowed into mine, and mine into hers. I saw her homeworld through her eyes, felt her experiences as if they were my own. And she saw all of me, my hopes, my fears, my dreams. The light grew so intense that I had to close my eyes, but even then, I could see, through Zara's perception. We were connected, two consciousnesses intertwined but still distinct. When the light finally faded, I opened my eyes to find Wells and his companions sprawled on the floor, conscious but dazed. The apartment door was open wider, and several Galaxy Exchange security officers stood in the doorway, along with Administrator Phillips. What is happening here? Phillips demanded, taking in the scene. These individuals forcibly entered our dwelling and attempted to interrupt our ritual, Zara explained calmly, though I could feel her lingering fear and outrage through our new connection. They threatened us, I added. Said they were going to neutralize Zara and take me for deprogramming. The security officers moved to restrain Wells and his companions, who offered no resistance, still looking stunned by what they'd witnessed. The ritual, Phillips said, his eyes fixed on the now dormant orb floating between Zara and me. You completed it? We did, I confirmed. I gave my full and informed consent. You can verify through neural scanning that Ryan acted voluntarily, Zara added. The connection cannot be established without genuine mutual consent. Phillips looked troubled but nodded. The exchange program respects the cultural practices of all participating species, provided they adhere to interplanetary law. If Mr. Chun consented. I did, I insisted. And I'd like to file a formal complaint against these individuals for breaking into our home and threatening us. As the security officers escorted Wells and his group out, I heard him shouting about alien corruption and the end of human autonomy. But his words seemed hollow now, disconnected from the reality I had experienced. When we were finally alone again, Zara turned to me, her eyes glowing with a soft, warm light. I could feel her confusion and gratitude through our connection. You completed the union, she said, even though you weren't ready, even though it was rushed and incomplete. I made a choice, I replied. Maybe not the way I would have chosen under different circumstances, but still my choice. She touched my face gently. The bond is real, but not as deep as it should be. We skipped important preparatory steps. Can we go back and do those steps? A smile spread across her face, and I felt her joy rippling through our connection. Yes, the union has been established, but it can be strengthened and refined through continued ritual practice. Good, I said, taking her hand, because I think I want to do this right. In the days that followed, our story became something of a sensation within the Galaxy Exchange community. The attempted interruption of a sacred ritual by anti-alien extremists was condemned by both human and alien officials. The university, facing potential diplomatic repercussions, quickly backtracked on their threats to my academic standing. As for Zara and me, we continued with the ritual steps we had skipped, deepening our connection gradually and properly. I learned that the Lumaran concept of love was both similar to and different from the human version, less focused on romantic passion and more on deep understanding and mutual growth. But that didn't mean romance wasn't part of it. In Lumaran tradition, Zara explained one evening as we sat on our balcony watching the stars, those who complete the love ritual often become life partners, but not always in the way humans think of marriage. Some become research partners, exploration teams, or creative collaborators. And what do you want us to be? I asked. Through our connection, I felt her affection, her hope, and something deeper that words couldn't quite capture. I think we're still discovering that, she said, leaning her head against my shoulder. And I find I enjoy the discovery process. I smiled, wrapping an arm around her. So do I. Our apartment became known as a successful model of human-alien cohabitation. Exchange program officials even asked if we would be willing to speak to new participants about our experience, with certain details omitted, of course. The Anti-Harmony League didn't disappear overnight, but their claims about mind control became harder to maintain as more humans like me spoke openly about their positive experiences with interspecies rituals. Dr. Wells eventually faced charges for breaking and entering, though his followers continued to distribute pamphlets warning about alien influence. As for me, I finally got around to reading my rental contract in full. Turned out there was a clause about possible visits from Zara's family members once the love ritual was completed. I probably should prepare for that, but for now I was content to explore this new connection, one ritual at a time. Sometimes the best things in life come from the fine print you didn't read. Who knew?